Hi, in this video, I'll be sharing some of the stats and extracurriculars that got me into my top choice schools, such as Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech, and more, as well as some of my main takeaways from the college application process. During my application process, I watched quite a few of these videos, and personally, I found them really helpful, so this is my way of paying it forward. If you want to see all the schools I applied to and how it went, you can watch my college decisions reactions video. And before we start, I just want to say that stats are not the end-all be-all. It's not the numbers that matter, it's the context in which you view them. Okay, starting off with some background info. I went to a public high school with a class size less than 400, and I applied regular decision to most of my schools as a CS major. GPA. My school only reports unweighted GPA out of 100. I know every school is different. So for me, I submitted some decimal above 99. And then for my mid-year report, which is just like an updated number transcript halfway through your senior year, I maintained my GPA. Besides for having unweighted GPA, we also don't rank students. So I didn't put anything down in that section of the Common App. Standardized testing. I submitted both my SAT and my ACT scores. Yeah, you don't have to do that. For the SAT, I submitted a super score of 1540 with a score breakdown of 740 for reading and 800 for math. And for the ACT, I submitted a 35. AP exams. So now that I'm done with the process, looking back, I actually don't think APs impact your application that much. It's just one way, another statistic for you to show schools that you can do that level of coursework that they're looking for, but I wouldn't stress about it if your school doesn't offer that many APs. Personally, my school did not offer that many APs, so I just took them in the progression that they were offered, as well as all the ones that were kind of relevant to me. In sophomore year, I took AP Euro and I got a 3. And I also took AP Computer Science A and I got a 5. Junior year, I had 3 APs. I took A Push, which I got a 4, AP Lang, which I got a 5, and AP Physics, which I got a 5. So clearly history is not my strong suit. And then senior year, I'm taking Chem, Gov, Lit, and BC Calc. But those scores are not going to be part of your application or really taken into consideration. Also, I did not self-study any APs, and I certainly don't think you need to if you're taking them just for the sake of having like another AP score. I would take them if maybe it's something you're majoring in or your college offers credit, but besides for that, I wouldn't recommend overloading yourself with APs. Next in the Common App is the awards and honors section. I wasn't really aware of this section, so I didn't apply to that many scholarships or awards or anything. I kind of just put on, a few of the things that I got. Thank God there were only 5 slots because I only had 5 things to put on there. The first one I put was the Harvard Book Award, which I got junior year. Second, I had National Honor Society, which is pretty standard for a lot of high schoolers. Third is the Board of Ed Scholastic Award, and this was just an award for having like a decent GPA. For my fourth one, I actually combined 4 separate mini awards that I got throughout the year. So it's Academic Excellence in AP Computer Science, Pre-Calc, Python, and French 5. Lastly, I put the Scholar Athlete Award. One thing that I didn't include was AP Scholar with Distinction. I think admissions officers can tell whether you've been awarded this or not because it's just based off your AP scores. I didn't want to fill up my honor section with something that would be redundant, and instead I choose to put Scholar Athlete. Moving on to extracurriculars. For this section, you have 10 spots. And for some of them, I ended up combining a few different extracurriculars just so it was more convenient for me to consolidate my list. The first thing I had was Science Olympiad that I did 9th through 12th. I was vice president and then co-president, and I medaled in a couple regional events. Second, I had student government, which I did junior to senior year. And I started off as a building cabinet rep where I met with the admin and principal to discuss school policies every month or so. And then I became co-president my senior year. Third, I had varsity cross country, which I did 9th through 12th grade. I was only varsity 3 out of the 4 years, but that's beside the point. For cross country, I was part of the leadership council, which started you off on a few little tasks to help organize the team. So this includes recruitment for younger runners, holding your own fantasy team over the summer, etc. And then I was captain my senior year. As a captain, my main duties were to communicate with the athletes, coaches, in Booster Club to organize events for the team, summer practices, team banquets, dinners, etc. Fourth, I was a Python teacher at my local Chinese school. This wasn't a huge time commitment, it was only once every Sunday, but I think I grew a lot from this experience. I learned a lot, and it really shows my impact on the community. So under this one, a few main bullet points that I listed were paid work. I created my course curriculum from scratch over junior summer, and I got to work with parents and my teaching assistants. Fifth was March for Our Lives, which I did sophomore year through senior year. This was a really cool experience for me. I got to meet with legislators in the New York State Capitol to talk about gun violence prevention legislation and work with a lot of passionate individuals that really fight for this cause. As a self-proclaimed STEM kid, this was definitely outside of my comfort zone, but going into high school, I really tried to adopt the mindset of trying everything. So, this was one of the activities that stuck. Sixth, I had photography club, which I did 9th through 12th. I was president almost all 4 years. This is because I couldn't fit art classes into my schedule, so photography club was just kind of a time for me to unwind and play around, release my creative juices where I couldn't normally do that in a class throughout the day. 7th, I had Model UN, which I did 9th through 11th grade, and I was the secretary. 8th, I had music/cello, which I did all 4 years of high school. Under this section, I combined 3 activities. The first being chamber strings, which was just a music group, Tri-M Honor Society, which is music-related volunteering, and my self-led quintet, which we performed at various little events throughout the school year. 9th, I had track. Here I combined indoor track, which I did 9th through 10th before switching to cross-country skiing, outdoor track, which I did 9th through 12th, and I was a captain, and youth track camp, which was something that I volunteered at over the summer. I didn't want to put them in 3 different things, so I just kind of categorized it as track. 10th, I had Young Playwrights and Next Act. I did this sophomore summer, and this is a playwriting contest that works with Proctor's Theater and the surrounding theater programs, where the winners of a playwriting contest will get to work with producers, actors, and backstage crew to make whatever they wrote come to life. I think throughout my application, there's sort of an overarching theme of creating impact through leadership. I did hold quite a few leadership positions. If I were to hypothesize, I obviously can't see what the admissions officers wrote about me. I would say that that was a big part of my application that probably helped me. And besides for that, I do think my essays played a large role. Moving on to some tips. Going into the college application process, I literally had no idea what I was doing, and my parents couldn't really help either because they haven't gone through the process in the United States, so I was kind of on my own. In general, I consolidated a few tips and things that I've learned of my opinions on maybe what you could do in your application process. Creating a college list. For this, I would say only apply to schools that you can actually see yourself going to. By the end of the process, I was really stressed. I started getting caught up in the application process, and I probably threw my application at a few places that I normally wouldn't have considered going. For this, I just want to say that, be realistic to yourself. Can you see yourself at this place? Do your research. Don't waste resources just for the sake of having an application to another school. But at the same time, do be open-minded about schools. There were a few schools that I wouldn't have considered applying to until I toured and really researched and realized that it was a better fit for me than I thought. When you're creating a college list, you want to have a balanced college list. So you want to mix a few safeties, targets with reaches. I categorize schools as safety, target, or reach based on what percentile my stats would fall in. So for example, if I was passed or at the 75th percentile for my SAT score, I would say it's probably a safety. If I was at the 50th percent, I would say it's a target, and 25% or below, it was a reach. If the acceptance rate for the school was below 15% though, I would always categorize it as a reach, because when acceptance rates get low, it can be a little unpredictable. I would check out the Common Data Set. If you don't know what the Common Data Set is, it's a PDF about a college's admissions. So it has like a standardized testing section, it has all those percentiles that I was talking about earlier. Seeing the data really gives you a general ballpark of what you may want to aim for, and also where that school may fall on your list of safety targets or reaches. Also on the Common Data Set is a relative importance of academic and non-academic factors. This is just a really fancy way of saying what a school prioritizes in their admissions. Do they really care about your standardized test scores? Do they really care about your essays? Or maybe they care about your impact in the community and what teachers have to say about you. Whatever it is, it can vary a lot from school to school, and it's a nice way to know what part of the application you want to focus on so that the school and you are both prioritizing the same thing in your application. Getting good stats. For standardized tests, and this goes for the SAT, ACT, and APs, I think it comes down to how much you practice and how efficiently you practice. My main 3 tips I have for this is recreate the testing environment to work on your timing, to get into the right mental zone, and to work on your testing endurance. Some of these tests are really draining. So take an AP, for example, they can range from 3 to like 6 hours. If you're not practicing that beforehand, it can be really taxing when you go in that day to take the AP exam and you're just exhausted from doing all the questions in a row. Second of all, I would be really familiar with your calculator, or now that the SAT is digital, be familiar with what you can do on Desmos. These shortcuts, they will save you time and energy. Some of these questions, you just want to copy the formula straight into Desmos and plot a few different points to see what the answer may be. Process of elimination it out. And for those questions where you might typically spend a few minutes solving it, you can spend a few seconds just graphing it right away. And lastly, write down every question you get wrong, why you pick the choice, and why the right answer is right. For this, I sort of have a mistake book, and this is what I'll review before the exam because it just helps me avoid the pitfalls that I happen to fall into often. For having a high GPA, I would actually ask your upperclassmen friends. They've gone through the same classes as you, and maybe they have tips, or maybe they can brief you on how a teacher tends to grade. I strongly think that upperclassmen from your school are some of the best resources that you can have. They come from a very similar environment, they're applying from a very similar background, from maybe they have recommendations from the same teachers and same courses, whatever it may be. They have already gone through it before you, so reach out to them and I'm sure they're more than happy to help. For the Common App, there is very limited space, so you want to make sure you're not only choosing wisely, you're also ranking your activities or your honor section by having the most important accomplishments at the top. What the admissions officers will see is whatever you put in, obviously, and people's attention tend to wane as they go further down a list, so just make sure you have your most wow factor right up in front in their faces. My second tip for the Common App is to use the word count in your activities section. Under each activity, there's a description box that you can describe what the activity was, and I would actually suggest, rather than writing a description of the club, I wrote about what my contribution to the activity was. So by tying it all together and making it more specific to me, I feel like it makes my application seem more impactful. A big factor of your application is your essays, and I really struggled writing all the essays. Writing is not my forte, but during the application season I was faced with so many supplementals from all the schools that I applied to. I won't be reading my essays in this video for the sake of time, but for some tips, I would highly recommend starting early, so junior summer, and make a schedule. Know how many supplementals you have to do, group supplementals by the similarity in their topics, and make sure you have enough time to write each essay as well as review each essay or redraft each essay before your deadlines come. For me, I started July and I finished half of my applications by November, and then from November to December I finished the next half of my supplementals. For your Common App and your personal statement, don't feel the need to think of an extraordinary topic. You didn't have to cure cancer, you didn't have to fund a multi-billion company, you don't need it to be incredibly profoundly artistic or especially creative in vernacular. I believe the most important message you should be conveying through your personal statement is your growth as a person and your mindset through a lived experience. This should embody you and what you've learned in your time on Earth over the past however many years it may be. It's a chance for you to showcase your personality. Before writing your personal statement, I wouldn't recommend reading too many Common App examples because sometimes your writing can get swayed by others. You don't want your essay to sound like a generic internet produced version, something that everyone is writing. You want it to be your unique voice and your unique message. Even if you finish your first draft and then you read some examples and it sounds wildly different, honestly, that's okay. Admissions officers, they read so many essays with the same structure inspired by whatever examples are online that something new will probably catch their attention more. I'm sure you've at least heard of examples online like the Harvard "Why I Hate the Letter S" or there's a few other examples out there. Just know your essay doesn't need to sound like that. It can, but just know that if it doesn't make someone cry or it doesn't make someone die from laughter, you know what, it's fine as long as it embodies you. And the last piece of advice, the most important piece of advice, as cheesy as it sounds, is to be true to yourself. I know it's impossible to capture a person in a few pages of an application. You guys are three-dimensional and multifaceted, but although you want to display your best self, don't end up writing a version of yourself that you are not. These admissions officers are looking to see if you will thrive in these communities, and you want to display the most genuine you. With that said, best of luck. You have worked so hard over the past 4 years. Now all that's left to do is to wrap it up, package it in a nice bow, and ship it off to the admissions officers. College applications is the most trust the process that I've gone through. And I know it's really hard to go through the waiting, to go through the uncertainty, but stay strong because it'll all be worth it in the end. If you have any questions, you want me to elaborate on anything, or you have content that you want to see, leave it down below and I'll try my best to get back to you. Other than that, good luck.